And why is it so important for us to use our voices and put ourselves out there?
I personally believe that when we can show up with authenticity, when we can, in a way, not do it like other people, but do it in a way that really feels like us, it can absolutely catapult you into authority. It can help you have a much greater impact. The difference between somebody who is just following the playbook of this is how I'm supposed to speak, this is how I'm supposed to present, this is how everybody else does it, and the person who feels really confident in their own skin, who is focused not on being perfect, but focused on really connecting with their audience, they're going to be able to show up and make good on this purpose, this thing that drives us out front in the first place. There's historical moments of when these words changed the way we all think and believe and behave. And I don't take it lightly. It's already an intimidating kind of world for people. So I tend to not overemphasize like you can change somebody's life. This can be life altering for people because there's enough pressure on
Yeah.
us. But I think it's true. I think we really can have and create big change when we can step out front and be ourselves.
And there's more of that connection when you hear somebody's voice than just reading what they wrote. Like,
It's true. There's something really special about speaking words, and we feel that difference. So, Jillian, if you think about, you can write a blog post and post it, and people might share it, it might have an impact on people, but it really, the message becomes three-dimensional in a real way when you're hearing it in somebody's voice, when you're watching it live in their body, when you see somebody feel nervous as they're sharing something or get emotional. Like it lives in us differently and it affects our audience differently. So I'm super biased, but it's my favorite form of communication, of
mine
course.
too. Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I know it can be scary. I know people hear the word public speaking and they run the other way. So,
Yep.
what steps can we take to get comfortable with actually speaking in front of people?
Yeah. So let me tell you about just an experience that happened last week. I was doing a workshop for a company. I do a lot of workshops around really how to persuade your audience, really how to structure messages that help persuade people. And so I was working with a group of what they call leaders. So these are really young professionals who they see potential in, and they brought me in to do this workshop. And in the first few minutes, I always ask everybody, where are you on the spectrum of loving or hating public speaking? And even knowing they're in a workshop about public speaking and they're talking to somebody who loves it, there's always a handful of people who are just like, I hate it. It's me. I don't know. And I'm so grateful that they admit to it in the moment because that's a brave thing to do given the context. And so there last Wednesday, there I was, and I asked, and there was a handful of people, and this one man in the back, he was just like, hate it. I hate that we're doing this. I hate that I'm here. I'm sure you're a lovely person, but I would rather be anywhere else in the world right now. And I was like, all right, thank you for being here. And my goal is to help you just hate it a little bit less because you feel like the risk could be worth it. Because it's a risk for all of us. It really is. So we spend the morning together, and I'm really talking with them about lowering the bar for ourselves. Like, it does not have to be perfect. We do not have to show up all buttoned up. If we mess up, if we use filler words, if we lose our way for a moment and lose track of our content, it doesn't mean that you can't have an impactful message. And I would argue, actually, as I did on this in this workshop, that in some ways your imperfection makes you easier to connect with because we tend to put speakers or people up front on this pedestal. They can do it and they're a different kind of person. I can't do that. So I was like, maybe it's more accessible than you think, right? So I'm just inviting people into this. We talk about some different frameworks. And at the end of the workshop, we do what I call a 2-minute talk. And I intentionally make it 2 minutes. We only spend 5 minutes preparing it. We're just practicing some of these strategies. And one of the people who offered to share their 2 minutes to talk was my cynic, the guy in the back who was like, no way, not me, not me. And so I said, like, what changed your mind about this? Why did you decide to give this a go? And he said, I am scared of the risk. And this felt like a safe place for me to take a risk. Now, I feel so grateful that it felt like a safe place to take a risk. So really the question is, how can we create the scenario that feels safe enough for us to take some more risks? And one of the things that I'm constantly telling people is that everybody gets nervous. It feels risky for everybody when you're about to do something that matters, that you care about, that could potentially have an impact. And the fact that it's scary shouldn't keep you from taking the risk, because everybody feels scared. Some people are just better at pretending, or like turning their fear into excitement, which is ultimately what it ends up being for those of us who've been doing this a long time. We feel afraid, but we just shifted into excitement faster because we trust ourselves. So you really have to do it anyway. That's ultimately what I'm trying to say, Jillian, is yep, you're scared. Yep, you're convinced that you can't do it. Yep, you think everybody else does it better than you. But the reality is, if you try, if you take the risk, if you put yourself out there, there are payoffs. It is worth it, even if you mess up, even if it doesn't go the way that you want it to go. And the only way to figure it out is to try, which is probably not what people want to hear, but that's the truth.
Yes.